Hi, Jim Paterson, Chairman and CEO of ValOre Metals Corp, trading on the Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol VO. Rough market cap, about $75 million. Projects in Brazil, palladium, platinum, and in Northern Canada, uranium.
Jim, good to see you. Been a while. My eyes lit up when I saw the phrase launching strategic review. I wanted to know what it meant and why you felt the need to announce it. What's going on?
We'll define it for you. We pushed back this interview so we could actually talk about these things, Matt. So thank you for bringing it up. I think really it just gives us a framework to maximize value for the projects we have. The palladium platinum asset in Brazil, we've done a lot of work. We've doubled the resource. We're not getting as much love for that one as we are the uranium project in Northern Canada. We've had lots of interest in our shareholder base to try to maximize value there, or spin it out, as they say. So we're just working with really smart bankers to figure out the best way to do these things.
But you've been resisting talking about the uranium for years, right? A lot of your shareholders have been going, come on, let's try and work out what's going on at Angilak. It's potentially significant. So why is now the right timing?
Well, I think the pricing is a lot better than 30. 60 is better than 30. I think that the interest level in the generalist community is much higher now. I think that the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust has proven to be a major player. They're soaking up inventory and secondary supplies that in my career I've always come back to kind of bite you in the ass. I think that the industry is a lot better cleaned up. I think there is obvious geopolitical support from an ESG perspective for nuclear now, which is growing. That's the demand side. And I think the supply side has been totally injured and neglected over the last decade. So for a company like ours, it makes sense to really start banging the drum. And it didn't 2 years ago.
Right. So, but you're not a uranium guy. So, and I know you've allocated some capital for some drilling here. So who in the team can move this forward, and create value? Or should be doing what some of your shareholders say and just sell it, spin it out, make it someone else's problem? I mean, you need to start making some decisions now.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the strategic review, because I think we can stack ourselves up from either project, the palladium platinum project in Brazil, the uranium project in Canada. We are a group that has lots of M&A experience, lots of northern exploration experience. We've got lots of contacts. I think we're well respected, and I think we're known as a good group to work with. So if there are groups out there that, as you say, have really strong uranium exploration experience in Canada, that'd be a group we'd want to talk to see if we might collaborate with them, do a deal with them. That's for our bankers, and to help us understand if there's real value.
Oh, so you're asking them to understand if there's real value, or are you asking them to find you a partner or a buyer?
We're asking them to find opportunities. It could be any of those things. It could be just a straight spin out of the palladium platinum assets, and then we're done. We kind of staff up that team and we continue on as ValOre with holding the uranium assets. I actually think that that's probably not the best thing to do. I think right now there's huge interest out there. I think there's groups that actually have lots of strength but don't have a project as good as ours. I think we've got one of the better projects on the planet. I think we've got huge upside, and I think people recognize that. So the timing is right to have those discussions.
Right. So I don't want to kind of conflate issues here, but it might be worth sort of getting your view. Platinum group metals investors typically don't understand it, right? They don't understand, how to measure or value it. There are not a lot of companies out there for them to do kind of peer analysis on, but they might understand the macro position at the moment. Obviously, we're seeing Russia, big palladium and platinum producer, maybe on the sanctions. It's a very different dynamic environment out there at the moment. So what do we need to know about PGMs? You seem to like them. Do you like them more than, and you seem to like them more than uranium. So what do we need to know?
I don't like them more than uranium. I just thought at the time, 2 years ago, it was uranium was a difficult market, and it was premature to really go after it full hog. Right now, the timing is good. I think one of the things that you mentioned is, we are a group that's known for our technical credibility. So when we look at a project, we really look at the quality of the project, regardless of the commodity. So in the case of the Pedra Branca project, which is a palladium platinum project in Brazil, it's near surface mineralization, access is great, exploration upside is substantial, and we have the right team on the ground to add value down there. Whether that might be attractive to some other party, some M&A transaction, or if we just spin it out and build a board around it that is sort of purpose-built, we're going to be looking at all those different options. And I certainly don't like the palladium better than the uranium. But right now, what we've been told and shown actually in presentations is that the fact that we have the two different projects in the same company just confuses people. And so unlocking value through the spinning or separating those assets into their own entity will actually create value. That's what we've been told. That's what we believe. And we're working towards that.
And I agree with that it can be confusing, in terms of the commodity, different commodities, because they're not kind of, they don't seem so very, very, very close in terms of the skill sets required to kind of advance the project. I get that your technical team, I get that you're part of discovery group, great track record of creating shareholder value, all of that kind of good stuff, but they don't seem to fit. I mean, different jurisdictions, great in terms of mitigating risk. That seems fine. But I agree with you. I think people are confused with what type of company you are. But I'm not sure whether Platinum Group Metals is a space which is going to get a big hearing from a big audience, unless you've got a plan of, I don't know what. I mean, who do you think it appeals to?
Well, aside from all the jurisdictional upheaval that's happening right now, this is a precious metals development project in Brazil. So it could be attractive to many parties, whereas a uranium project is definitely not attractive to all parties. The palladium, you could have a precious metals producer that produces gold, silver, and copper, for example, that could convince their shareholder base that a palladium platinum project with near surface mineralization, with zero strip on some of these deposits and great access and lots of upside actually would fit with their portfolio. So I think the audience could range from private companies that are developing gold assets that maybe are kind of entering the boring permitting engineering stage, which is the death knell for investor interest. They might be able to combine with a company like ours, which will have bursts of exploration and discovery news flow that will keep the market active as we advance the project. It could be a palladium platinum producer from somewhere who wants to diversify away from Russia or South Africa. It could be a producer that's in South America that looks at this thing and says, look, we can make money with this project. Let's advance it and develop it. It fits well with our portfolio. They might be a gold producer. I think really the audience is very wide. It's not as wide as for the uranium. The uranium market is not as, there aren't as many experts in uranium as there are in precious metals.
Yeah, it's a fair, well, that's a fair point in terms of the skill set available in the uranium space. But again, looking at the pricing around platinum and palladium at the moment, and your market cap, you've got 2.2 million ounces here, good grades, but there's a disconnect, right? And is that disconnect coming because you think, generally at the moment, commodity prices are disconnected with equities because people are reserving judgment as to whether they invest in junior exploration plays? Or do you think it's because they don't understand the kind of platinum market, and that's why I keep coming back to, what do we need to understand in terms of pricing? What do we need to understand in terms of the macro? And you've listed a bunch of people here. Maybe your project may be appealing to you, but will they pay the price? Will you get the value you think should be attributed to it?
That's subject to negotiation. And I think that's the whole point of the business that we're in. If the timing's right and there's lots of buyers, you can leverage them against each other. If you're sitting on the street corner and no one's buying, you're not going to get much for what you're trying to sell. So I think in this case, it's our job working with our advisors to see what the real opportunities are. And I'm actually super collaborative in that I think that it's not an asset by itself. We have an amazing discovery team in Brazil, and we as a group have the ability to raise capital. So we can go to another asset owner in Brazil or in South America and say, look at our asset, look at our team, and our group has great credibility, and we can work together on this to maximize value if that's what we want to do. The point is, with the strategic review that we've launched, it's a total open canvas. We can do whatever we want, but we're very motivated. We have a sense of urgency to do a deal as quickly as possible because of the market conditions. We're not going to putz around.
But that's what I was saying. You've never been rushed in terms of timing because you felt confident, part of the discovery group, that you could go and access capital, right? You put a lot of your own money into it, you're right. I know you rate and value the Brazilian project. I get that. But you just said we are not going to hang around. We sense that this is the right time. Do you think this is as good as it's going to get? Because you've allocated budget for, both projects. So, and you're okay for cash. So are you under pressure to kind of get this thing done, or can you take your time?
I think I'm not personally under pressure to get the deal done, but I think you need to have deadlines in order to get other people incentivized and motivated. So, we're not going to drag this thing out. Like right now, we've announced the fact that we're looking at doing something, so we're going to get after it and do something.
Okay, so but where do you think the market's going to? Like, if we just stick with PGMs for a second, prices are high at the moment, right? Some good prices at the moment. Is that off the back of uncertainty, or was that a sort of general upward trend, which you think is sustainable in, say, for the next 12, 18 months?
The biggest, like Implats put something out recently that they say that it is sustainable on the palladium side anyways, not necessarily on the platinum side. But I think that the pricing is based on jurisdictional risk, or, Russia, South African risk. But I think, though, I guess what we've had a conversation before, Matt, is that if you are only trying to time the optimal time in the market, you're not going to last long. You have to focus on the quality of the projects and advance them as best you can. And you hope that those groups that are, platinum producers or precious metals producers look at this asset and say, ValOre's done a great job of adding value. Now it's our wheelhouse.
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see how you play that, or the timing, whatever advice you get. I'd love to hear from you. On uranium, I'm a big uranium fan. I think there's some great uranium stories out there, and as you say, the momentum is there. But you also touched upon the fact that there's not too many people who know what they're doing, and making claims that perhaps can't back up. You've got Rob Carpenter involved, right? And I think maybe might be worth to explain to people who he is, what his connection with Angilak is, and what he's going to be doing for you.
Rob Carpenter is an amazing man, and he is an advisor to ValOre. And he was the CEO of a company called Canaccord. And Canaccord, before it made a big gold discovery in the Yukon, was a project generator. And some of the projects that Rob generated with Canaccord were three of them. There were 3 uranium projects in the territory of Nunavut. And Rob actually negotiated the first deal ever for a uranium project in the territory of Nunavut. He did the deal with a Nunavut Tungavik Inc., which is NTI. We call it NTI. And it's a quasi-government organization that represents the people that are from Nunavut. They basically shepherd their resource base. So the territory of Nunavut came out with a uranium policy. Rob knew the project and was able to negotiate a deal with the NTI, first of its kind. And then obviously, Canaccord was taken in a totally different direction because they made the discovery of the Coffee Gold Project, which was in the end sold to Goldcorp for over $500 million. And Rob, we spun the assets out into Kivalliq Energy, and Rob was a director. He was the chairman to start with, a director, advisor, and has also been really instrumental to me in terms of what we're doing with Pedra Branca. Has been down there several times as well. So he's a genius when it comes to the technical aspect, but having been a CEO in the firing lines, in the hot seat, he's really helpful for me when tough decisions need to be made, and you kind of want a real strong ally who's been there, and that's Rob Carpenter. I love him.
Yeah. Good reputation across the board. In fact, I was speaking to one of the other discovery companies earlier, and I think he's helping them out too. And again, a very happy CEO there with Rob's involvement. Now, with regards to timing for uranium, the market is great, right?
Yeah.
But Angilak's got a long history with you guys. In one shape or form, you said it's $55 million Canadian has been spent on this thing. There's a NI 430101 on this thing of whatever, just over 43 million pounds. Good grades. I know you put in percentages, and people are talking CPS these days. So we're gonna have to try and understand why. I'm sure, but you've got a resource there. You've also allocated a budget for drilling. That means, as one suggests, that there's going to be an upgrade to that resource, but a lot of backfilling in terms of the dollars spent to date, the dollars being attributed to it, given your current market cap. There's just bunch of gaps to kind of fill in and try and understand, and that's going to affect your timing. Would that lend you to believe that if you had to choose either child, you'd probably lean towards the uranium?
The value of the uranium asset is currently clouded by the holding of the palladium asset. We're going to unlock value. If you match us head to head against most of the Canadian explorer cos, most of them, if not, there's only a few that actually have resources. So because so much failure goes into success in delineating an inferred resource. It's very painful. You miss a lot of holes, and they're very expensive. So to actually have a resource means that you've gone through a lot of hard times, you spent a lot of money, and it's hard-fought victories. So we have 43 million pounds where others don't have any inferred resource. We've actually done metallurgy. And so we're like a baby developer in that we've actually started moving along and learning a little bit more about how things would get advanced, although we're still an Explorer Co. trading at a discount. So as soon as we separate these things, I think, first of all, we got no coverage really to speak of in the ATFs. So, and other companies with no resources are well represented there. There could be some real upside there. We're talking to people right now this week and over the next few weeks. They haven't even heard of us. They've heard of all the other uranium companies. They haven't even heard of us. And it's a bit shocking to them that we're a company that has this resource that no one's even talked about. So it's like the re-coming out here onto the big stage. And we've got a great project, and we were able to raise money at the end of last year. So we'll have a pretty aggressive program. But I'll just show you one of the things.
Yeah, sure.
We have spent significant money in this area, which is, there are 5 zones that make up to 43 million pounds, starting over here on the western side, all the way over here to J4. But one of the techniques that we use to identify the structures that may host the mineralization is VLF, geophysics. And we really only have coverage here, a little bit here, and a little bit here. So these red dashed lines are areas that will be putting together a very massive geophysical campaign. And what we think is that this little area here will have a mirror, and actually there's much greater potential on the western side of this basin. So that's the first step. We're going to run a very aggressive big geochem campaign. So to your point on growing the resource, I think there's very little value in growing the resource from 43 million pounds to, let's say, 53. But if, there will always be a need for us to try to grow the resource base to show that to that segment of the population that needs it. But I think what we're really keen on is that this mirror potential over here on the western side would leave us so many targets. And, if we were to do some sort of transaction with another group that would get access, perhaps they've got huge access to capital, great trading liquidity, and a great uranium team, but no one has an asset like this, with a big project with uranium at surface. This is 35 kilometers away from these zones. So we've got the resource base, which most don't have, and we've got more upside than most.
Okay. So how do you come at this? Are you saying let's talk to a group who've got a bigger balance sheet or a better uranium experienced team in terms of exploration, etc.? Does that mean they farm in? Does it mean this spins out into their vehicle? I mean, you're going to tell me all of the above, I suspect.
Yeah, but that would be my least favorite, because I think that, I think I'm the same way as the majority of the investors in our companies, that, once you see that a group has been able to do an accretive deal and exit, you want them to do it again, because that's where you get your premium takeout. And, getting somebody to have kind of some back end loaded earn in really just kind of gives them a chance not to pay for their position or pay less for their position. And it's not the same as a takeout or a merger where you join forces and, there could be a merger of equals for sure out there. It'd be tough to find an equal. We are trading at a real discount, so we got some room to make up here.
Well, what do you think this is being valued at by the market? 80 million market cap today. You've got 2 projects. What's this percentage split in terms of value? Do you think, and do you think the market thinks?
I think the market thinks probably 60-20, 65-20. 65-15, I guess, 60-20 or 65-15.
And right, where's the rest of it going? You, the rest of it's on you. 65-20 is 85. Where's the 15% being allocated to?
65 million to 10 million.
So got you, not percentages, right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're about to spend $11 million on this thing. That'll take it up to $66 million on the Angilak, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to want to recoup that and some. So you feel that it's merger of equals was the best way of recouping that and then going on to build something successfully, like sharing the costs?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think that we will have no issue whatsoever raising capital. So there's not that we're the broke, poverty stricken project that needs financial help. I think that this is highly financeable. So it would really have to be a merger of a sort that would catapult the company to a much larger market cap, increased trading liquidity, really strong technical team and board, so that people would look at it and say that was a step up.
Do you think it's got to be a Canadian company? I was just trying to get clues as to what's going on in your head, because you obviously got the Nunavut factor in here. Well, as you do across Canada, the First Nations is really, really important to get right. And we've seen a few people get it really, really wrong. And that's terminal, or it certainly adds cost and time, which just makes it terminal. Or do you think an outside group can come in just with the experience and you'll deal with perhaps the management of the communication and relations? What could that look like for you?
Well, it would, if it were a Australian listed company with a uranium asset in Africa, then it'd have to be very compelling, because you'd have another situation where to the layman it's a uranium company, but if you really dig deep, it's two companies, because you have the two listings, and you have the project here with a Canadian team and the regime, the regulatory environment, then you have whichever company or country would be totally different, Africa or Australia, or even the United States for that matter. So you have to have a pretty compelling idea. It may work in a hot uranium environment for people to say, well, we just combine these two uranium companies and it's a uranium company now. But I tend to look at it sort of differently. I think if you really want synergies, you have to have a team that works well together, or projects that have some sort of geospatial closeness, permitting regimes are the same or complementary. Can't just try to squish two things that don't fit together.
No, invariably when you squish two things, merger of equals, the value doesn't tend to double always. So that's what I'm kind of interested in terms of your experience with Northern Empire or Camanachd or Corsa, is how you felt you created value. Because as an investor, I'm looking in here and going, well, if they spin something out, there's a transaction, and I guess there's a bit of an upside kicker for me as an investor going, that's nice. And if you pick the right, I guess, on the advice from Canaccord, you pick the right vehicle to continue on with. How's that structured? And where's that value come for me as the shareholder, right? So that's what I'm interested in, trying to understand how quickly you'll come to the point where you can make a decision as to which child you pick, what structure you create with the project, which remains internally. And if it is the uranium, what type of partnership are you looking for? Clearly, skill set would be a big driver there. Yeah.
In all cases, Matt, where if there was a palladium asset and the uranium asset, and that's all we did, we didn't have to look for other partners. We split them up just to kind of clear it up for investors. We would have work to do to make sure we had a superior board that was purpose built for the asset and the technical team. So that, I have had experience where you take a company and you split it in half, and the board stays the same and the management stays the same, and you basically have increased admin costs, and everybody's like run off their feet because they only have so much bandwidth. So in the end, you need to have people that are highly incentivized around the project and knowledgeable about the project. So as it stands right now, I think we've got a really good board and a really good exploration and management team, but things are getting very busy in at Angilak, and things are very busy in Brazil. And so those things warrant a completely concerted effort and team around them.
Brilliant. Okay. And just give me a sense of timing on this one. I know you're getting some advice here and all of the above's in play, and you are rushed, not rushed. I'm not quite sure. So you want to take advantage of the timing, but you're not rushed financially or under pressure financially or financially constrained in any way. So give me a sense of what does this year look like? When are the big moments coming? What are the moments like that will change my life?
Well, there's different investor bases that would play this thing. There's a smaller investor base currently that likes, palladium, platinum type of assets. There's a much bigger investor base that wants the uranium, and we're going to show that we have a superior uranium project, and they're going to understand that there will be a short time frame for them to invest in it, where it's clouded right now, and it will be unlocked in the near future. So I think that will have increased interest for uranium investors. And there'll be events-driven investors that like the whole aspect of a spin-out because there's a dividend and so forth if that were to occur. So yes, we're working with a sense of urgency. I'm not saying we're going to be like begging everyone on the streets to do a deal with us, but we're going to be very aggressively looking at what's available for both projects, who's out there, who might need a project like this, who we could work with, who we could help in terms of, can we raise money, but you've got a great project, maybe we can find a good deal. Maybe we use the Palladium project to buy something. That's the whole point of the strategic review, and we're capable of doing any of it.